everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today I'm going to be giving you a tour of our vegetable garden. It is July right now, and if you're new here, we are located in Virginia, Zone 7. Things might look a little bit messy here today because we had a huge storm the other day. We had a lot of rain and wind, and it was even hailing at some point, so you'll see that some things are kind of messed up. And sorry, it might be a little bit of a mess weed and grass wise. It has been raining a lot, so it's just been a little bit difficult for us to get out here and for Aaron to mow. So anyway, I'm gonna get on with the tour now. In this first bed, we have our determinate tomatoes, which have been doing really great. I've been harvesting a ton out of here. We have a lot of tomatoes on the plants and ripening. You can see a nice cluster right here. A lot more over here. I think this is a pretty good tomato year for us. I have already picked a lot and we've been eating tomatoes every day. The other day I did my very first batch of canned diced tomatoes, and I just use like larger slicing tomatoes for those mostly. Those do really well canned. But we still haven't really hit our peak yet, I don't think. I think we still have a lot more coming. You can see there's a ton of green tomatoes here, and some of these branches have fallen down from the storm. But yeah, there's just a ton of green tomatoes and ripening tomatoes. The next bed is probably the most obvious in terms of storm damage. Our corn has just really taken a beating. I think every year from some kind of summer storms, our corn usually falls down. So we've kind of like tied together some of it, and then I tried to prop some of it up with bricks. Usually after it falls down, it does kind of like correct itself a little bit, so we'll see if it does that again. But you can see it's actually tasseling right now, and on some of the stalks I've seen that there are some ears of corn forming on here. So hopefully it will kind of like grow upright again, and then what I'm going to start doing is shaking these tassels to release the pollen so that the pollen from the tassels can fall onto the silks of the corn, which is right here, and that's how you get good pollination on your corn. So it's a little bit of a mess right now, but we're hoping that it does all right in the next week or so. Here's the next bed, and it does kind of look like a mess, but I don't think this is because of the storm. I think our shallots and onions are almost ready to harvest. When onions are ready to harvest, usually the tops kind of fall back like this. These ones more look fallen, but usually you'll see the necks kind of bend over and they'll get like kind of soft over here, like right here if you press. So I think these are getting close to being ready to harvest. Really nice size shallots in here. Some smaller ones too, but shallots don't always get huge even when you buy them from the store, so I think that's fine. And then on the other side we have some red onions, and those are looking really good. Nice size on those, but you can see that this one is not like quite as mushy over here, not as soft. So those have a little bit more time to grow before they're going to be ready to harvest. On our arch trellis, our yard-long beans have been doing great, and we have started harvesting those. So here is the red variety, which is really beautiful, and then we have the green ones down there as well. On the other side of the trellis we have a cuckoozy gourd, and it has been growing a lot. You can see it's reached the top of the trellis, but I haven't actually seen any fruit developing on it. You can see there's one over here, but I haven't seen any get any larger than this. So still waiting on those. Then in this bed, we had some garlic all in this bed that has all been harvested now. So I put in some sweet potatoes in there. I just had my leftover potatoes that I had been growing slips from, and I just threw the whole potato in there, and those seem to be growing pretty nicely now, along with a couple of pepper plants here. This is a pasilla pepper, which is kind of like a drying pepper, I think. and you can see there's one developing here. I don't really have a lot of experience with these peppers, so I'm curious to see what they're going to taste like. On the other side of this bed, I have a honey nut squash over here that's doing really well. This is one of the later squashes that I've planted, so there's nothing forming on it quite yet. And then in here, I had a zucchini, but you can see I actually cut it out the other day because it just didn't look like it was growing very well. It was really small, and I decided I've had enough of zucchini, I think, this year. So I actually just cut it back even though it had not started producing yet. And I'm just gonna use this bed to put something else in, maybe some like fall root vegetables or something. I think that will be a little bit better because honestly, we've just been a little zucchini'd out. So that's pretty much it for the left side. I'm gonna move over to the right, and in this first bed we have our pepper plant, which is starting to really come in and produce a lot of peppers now. Here we have an Ajvarski pepper. This is one of my favorite larger sweet peppers. You can see how it's really big. I've harvested a few of these green just because I am just getting kind of impatient to have peppers, honestly. But you can see that there are some nice sized fruit forming on there. I have a cayenne pepper over here. This one is a Spanish mammoth. I think this one still needs a little bit more time to grow. We have some Korean hot peppers here. This one is so productive. A lot of peppers on this one plant. Then I have some Ruby King bell peppers. You can see how these ones are much smaller than the Ajvarski. I have not harvested any of these yet, and they just take a little bit longer. So that's why I really like the Ajvarski, because relative to other like larger sweet bell peppers, they do produce very early, which is nice. This one with the really beautiful leaves here, these are arroz con pollo peppers. They take a little bit longer, so there's no fruit on them yet, but I do see flowers on there. We have a couple of larger Anaheim peppers, and I have harvested a few of these just to throw in some things I've been canning. I've really been trying not to like pick these to eat, but sometimes when I'm canning things, if it calls for some peppers, I will pick a few of these a little early just because I want to have those in those canning recipes. I'm trying to be patient, but I am anxiously awaiting those peppers. Then we have some really cool ones here. These ones are called korbachi. You can see how long and like curly that is. This is a sweet pepper. We haven't had any yet. I've been waiting for them to turn red, and it looks like this one is getting really close, so I'm very, very excited to try them. And I have another plant over here. There's a ton of fruit on that. This is my paprika pepper. Pretty excited for those. Really nice size fruit on there and a ton of them. It's actually one of my tallest pepper plants, I think, which is pretty surprising. I didn't know it was gonna get that big. This is our eggplant and peanut bed, which has been doing amazing. This has been one of my favorite beds all year. The eggplant has just done so well, I think because I covered it right after transplanting to protect them from the flea beetles. You can see that there is some damage here now, but since they were covered when they were young, they were able to kind of get through the worst of the damage and just get really nice and strong, which is good. We have had some Japanese beetles eating the leaves, so that's unfortunate. If it's not one bug, it's always another, it seems. But they're not really out today because it's cloudy, so that's good. The peanuts are doing really well. You can see that they have grown a lot now. They're almost at the point where they're going to start like sprawling. And here is one of the flowers actually growing there, that little yellow flower. So soon enough, all of these will be covered with flowers, and there is just so much eggplant on these plants. I'm so happy. They have been like just a really nice size this year, and the plants have been so productive. I think we picked like 5 or 6 this morning already, and there's just a ton in here. Really happy. Here's some more peanut flowers. In the next bed we have mostly our leeks. A lot of our herbs have kind of fizzled out now because of the heat. And the leeks, I think I'm probably gonna have to come out here and harvest soon. I did harvest a few of them. You can see some empty spots here, and we've been eating them. I've dehydrated some, but you can see how some of the lower leaves are not looking as good anymore, so I think I have to come out and harvest these and preserve them and figure out what to do with them. And then that'll be good because that'll open up another bed for me too, and then I can put in more fall crops. It's really getting to the point where the fall crops need to start going in before it's too late. On this cattle panel, I have a winter melon that is growing here. Kind of just getting started. It does take quite a while to start growing, but it's definitely getting going now, and soon enough it will be huge. In this last raised bed in the front over here, we have our edamame, which we've tried for the first time yesterday. It was so good, and I'm really happy with these plants. This is a new thing that we have been trying out this year, and look how many pods are on that plant. That is so cool. So you can see how now the beans inside are starting to plump up. So yesterday I picked a few of those just because I wasn't really sure when to harvest them, but since you could kind of see that they're kind of plumping up in there, I picked a few, and I think that they were perfect. So I think soon we're gonna have to come out and pick a whole bunch of these. I think mostly I'm just gonna freeze them because frozen edamame is really good, cooks up really nicely, and you can usually buy frozen edamame from the store, so I think that'll be a great way to preserve it. But I'm thrilled with how well these have done. They've been so easy to grow, like pretty much no maintenance on my part, and just a ton of pods on each of the plant. So definitely very productive, and doesn't take up a lot of space. So really, really happy with those. On the other side, I have 3 Roma tomato plants, which have been very productive. Been picking a lot of these to make salsa. They do keep falling down though. I keep just finding random ones on the floor, so they don't hang on to the plant very well. But that's okay, we have definitely still been picking a lot of them. And then on the end, we have one of my new favorite flowers, coreopsis, which I have been using in my natural dye project, so that's been really fun to have. Along our bed on the side, we have some beautiful hyssop here, which the bees have been loving. But we also found out this year that Japanese beetles really love hyssop as well. So you can probably see bees and beetles on here. But honestly, I would rather the beetles be on this than on like our food crops. So I'm kind of not that mad about it because it just makes it like an easy place for us to come pick them in the mornings and night times. But anyway, yeah, it's definitely Japanese beetle season here. On this trellis, we have some beans. I don't remember the name of them. I'll put them on the screen, but these are like a drying bean that I'm trying out for the first time. And I just got those seeds a couple months ago, and I thought I had enough time to grow them. So trying those out. Got some beautiful evening sun sunflowers that seeded themselves from previous years. Always nice to have sunflowers in the garden for the color and for the bees. Then on the other trellis, we have some more beans, but these are green beans. These are our rattlesnake pole beans, and I've been picking a lot off of these. But honestly, I think I am probably going to pull these out soon. It's kind of gotten to the point where I've been picking a lot, but I've also missed a lot because it's kind of hard to like get all in to these leaves. So once you miss a few, the beans start slowing down production, and they do get really fibrous when they get too big. And also these bean plants just attract so many beetles. Like, it's pretty disgusting. You can see up here how many beetles there are. So yeah, it's just been really gross to like pick here because anytime you move anything, like beetles just rain down on you. Yeah, so I think I've picked enough beans that I might just pull these out and put something else here. Maybe some peas for the fall. Our potato pots, unfortunately, I don't think were a success this year. Somebody mentioned in a comment that it might have been because we've gotten so much rain, and I would totally believe that. I don't think it has stopped raining more than just for like a couple days at a time. So I think with like the endless rain we've gotten, maybe they've just been a little bit waterlogged. But we did plant some new ones as a succession planting, so we'll see how those do. But so far it has not been that great. So in the middle here, we have a couple more beds. Over here, we have a bed that has been completely taken over by oregano. but I kind of don't want to cut it back because you can see it's flowering now and the bees have been loving it. There's just always so much movement here. Like if you just stand here really still, you'll just see like all of these flowers just like moving from all the bees. So kind of want to leave that here for them. Then we have our green stalk, and I think I'm still kind of figuring out like the best way to use this. I think it doesn't get enough airflow here because it's kind of crowded in between our two beds. So maybe next year we'll find a better place for it where it has a little bit more circulation. Things have been growing, but I think it's just been maybe like a little bit more diseased than in our raised beds. So we have some jalapeno peppers here growing, some little dwarf tomatoes. I have some shishito peppers as well, and then different kinds of beans here. But the production just has not been as high as the things in our raised beds. It could be like, you know, the potting mix that's in here, because this is a container that doesn't have access to the ground, so it might not be able to reach the nutrients as easily. Maybe I just need to fertilize a little bit more. But yeah, it's our first year with it, so I'm still kind of like figuring it out. Moving on to our back area now where we have all in-ground beds. I'm gonna start on the left with our row of zucchini that has been feeding us like crazy for months. We have been eating so much zucchini. I think every day we pick like 6 to 8 different kinds of zucchini, which is crazy. I need to scale it down next year because there's really no way we need this much for 2 people. But yeah, I think we are just about reaching the point where it's gonna start slowing down soon, which I'm kind of relieved about, honestly. I have preserved so much zucchini the last month, it's kind of bonkers. And you can see a lot of these leaves have kind of started falling down. The plants don't look quite as healthy anymore, partly because of that storm, partly because of squash bugs that are starting to show up now. I have noticed quite a few more, and any eggs that I've missed have started to hatch. So I'm sure at some point these plants are just gonna start dying back a little too much, to the point where any more produce that we get isn't really gonna be worth the space. So it's getting close to the time where I'm gonna pull these out, and honestly I'm kind of relieved about it. I'm really thankful for the food we've gotten, but it really has been a lot and it's been a little overwhelming. In the back here we do have some kinds of winter squash. You can see a spaghetti squash here, which looks really orange. I'm not sure why it looks that orange. Here's one that's a little more yellow, which I feel is the more normal color. I'm hoping I didn't like save those seeds and they cross-pollinated with something, but I don't think that's what it was. But it's almost time to harvest these. I checked this morning, and if I push my thumbnail in there, it doesn't really leave a mark, so we're gonna pick those soon. And then we have some other pumpkins here. Don't know what that one is, but this is our, I think it was like a French variety, kind of like a Cinderella pumpkin shape. That's looking really good. Really happy to have one of these like larger pumpkins. I believe this one is a kabocha squash, although, ooh, I see something's wrong with that one. But really cool markings. I think I have some other ones here. Another one. They might be burning on this tarp a little bit. There's some squash bug eggs. And then I have a bunch of these squash, which I'm not really sure what they are, but I kind of have a suspicion they are the Korean green pumpkins that I planted, and a couple of people told me that you're supposed to pick them as like summer squash basically when they're really small, but obviously I did not do that because my vines just kind of tangled all up with each other, and I wasn't sure if it was my Korean green pumpkin or if it was my kabocha squash, so I just left them, and now I guess I'm just gonna see if they do well as pumpkins, because this is obviously too big to eat as summer squash, and I'm hoping that they're gonna be okay because there are so many. Let's see, over here I only have one plant of this, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, another one there, 6, and then I had one on the other side, so like at least 7 from this one plant. So I'm hoping that they will kind of like preserve well as a winter squash. because I didn't pick any of those young. So yeah, that's going to be an experiment for us. On this A-frame trellis, we have a couple of pickling cucumbers that are kind of starting to die out. You can see that on the other side, the vine has pretty much all shriveled up. So those are going to have to go soon. But down here, we have a cantaloupe plant, and you can see there's a few melons here. There's 4 right here, and then a 5th one over there. And they're starting to get those markings on the outside, which I think is so cool. Our first time growing cantaloupe. So I'm pretty excited for those to be ready. Now starting on the other side, in this first bed here, we had a bunch of bush beans, which we have cut all of those out because they were pretty much done. So now all of those sweet potatoes that we planted in the middle of this row, if you remember, they have plenty of space now, and I think it's perfect timing because they are just now starting to really vine out, and now they'll have enough space to kind of take over this bed. In the next bed, I have a couple artichokes on the 2 ends over there, looking really great. And then in between, I did a second succession of a few different kinds of zucchini. I know, I don't know what I was thinking. I really probably didn't need that. But at the time when I started the seeds, our big crop of zucchini hadn't come in yet. And I was just thinking about the fall and how nice it would be to have more zucchini to grill. At this point, I don't know if it's going to be necessary because we might be so sick of it. But I already had started the seeds and planted these, so I'm just gonna leave it. Maybe in a couple of months when these start coming in, we'll want it again because our other zucchini is gonna die, so I don't know, we'll see. If not, we can always pull them out, I guess, but it kind of seems like a waste. But you can see how I've covered it up with tulle to leave any of the vine borer moths and the squash bugs out because it worked so well with our other zucchini. So I am trying to protect these until they get too large, which is going to be pretty soon. And then I will remove the netting and then they can continue growing. In the next row on the very edge here, I have another melon plant. This one is a honeydew, and so far I've only seen 1 melon on here, which is right here. I'm hoping that we get more than 1, but in the past when we've grown this, I think we've only gotten 1 or 2 melons per plant. And then over here, I've planted a few things. You can see I have a few sunflowers, and then I've planted some more bush beans. And I think in this area here, I started sowing some root vegetables, so carrots or radishes or something like that for the fall, just to get those started. Here we have some potatoes, which we need to come out and harvest soon. You can see how the tops are dying. Just kind of waiting for a break in the rain, but it just has not stopped raining for a long time. So we just have to get out here soon and harvest those. In the next bed, we have a bunch of tomatoes. These are our indeterminate tomatoes, which we've been harvesting a lot of, but you can probably see the plants are kind of starting to die back. This one is pretty much all shriveled up now, and yeah, they're starting to look pretty diseased. Most of these are heirlooms, and they're a little bit more finicky than our hybrid determinates. I knew that they were going to get diseased a little bit more quickly. But I've been pretty impressed with the production this year, actually, of these varieties. I think that this trellising method has worked pretty well for us. So I think I would do it again. Here are a few of our beautiful Paul Robeson tomatoes, and then sun golds. This row has mostly cucumbers. I have a few tomatoes on the side here, but in the middle, you can see how the cucumbers back here have pretty much fizzled out as well. The only ones that are really hanging on pretty nicely are the Suyo Long cucumbers. And I have read that they do really well in the heat and humidity. So I think that's definitely true. There's not a ton of big ones. I think production has kind of slowed down, but they are still making these really nice long cucumbers. I think this will be one of the few slicing cucumbers that I'll grow every year. I've really liked these this year. And I've canned a lot of pickles from this area. I think my favorite pickling cucumber was the Chicago pickling. It was very productive. Here, I think this is one of them here. So those two are definitely two of my favorite cucumber varieties, Chicago pickling and Suyolong. And I think I grew like 8 different kinds this year. So I think I gave it a good go in trying out a whole bunch and seeing which ones are our favorites. Back here we have a winter melon plant, no fruit on that yet. And also I believe Chinese okra, which here are the flowers for those. Haven't opened up yet, but they'll be coming soon. And then we have our bitter melon plant. I have been picking a few of those. I only have one plant and I think that's perfect for the 2 of us. You can see they're really funky little vegetable. We are down to the last 2 rows here. This row is our onion row, and we have actually come out here the other day and we harvested a bunch of them. So now you can see a big empty space here. We had our red onions here and we harvested 50 of those. I just knew that those were ready to come out because all of the tops were flopped over. On the end here, I have just a few of this Cortland variety, which is like a yellow onion. Those are not quite ready yet. I can see how the tops are still nice and strong. The red onions were a little bit of a smaller size, but these Cortland ones, I do really like how big they get. Some of them are smaller, obviously, but I do have a few nice big ones. So I think I need to get more seeds for these next year because I do really like them. We have a few celery plants. I need to come out here and harvest those soon. Maybe we'll put them in like a tuna salad or we will juice them. And then we have our other yellow onion variety. These are Australian brown onions. So technically a brown onion. I don't know if brown's different from yellow. These ones have stayed a little bit smaller. They're still growing though. I don't think they're quite ready. Well, some of them are falling down, but again, I can't really tell if it's just because of the rain or because they're ready. So I'm just leaving them for now. So yeah, a little bit disappointed with the size of these, but maybe it was just maybe like lack of sun or nutrients. It could be that and not the variety, but I think I like the Cortland variety better than this one. And finally, the last row, we have our okra, as well as some really tall sunflowers. So fun how big sunflowers can get. Look at the size of that stalk. So thick. And we have a few okra varieties here and they've just started producing. This one is the Clemson Spineless, which we are trying out for the first time this year. Then we have the Burgundy okra. These plants don't seem to get as large, not quite as hardy, and they have not really been producing yet, even though I think we planted these ones first actually. And then these are the heavy hitter okra seedlings that I planted maybe like a month or 2 after the other ones, which is why this is so small. I'm curious to see how this one does. So that is it for July's garden tour. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It has been such a good garden year for us, and I hope it has been for all of you as well. And there's still a lot more to come, so I'm excited to keep showing you guys the garden. And it's been really fun sharing all of our successes and failures this year. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and our rooster is saying goodbye too. And I'll see you again in the next video.